Far back in the haze of Earth history, the ineluctable pressures of change evolved one of the most enduring creatures of the natural world, the sea elephants. "20 million years later, the lives of these uniquely specialized mammals remains basically unchanged. A primitive drama in 4 acts: combat, mating, birth, and death. The arena for this living theater is a small remote Pacific island, Guadalupe, last refuge of the great northern sea elephants. "134 miles off Mexico's Baja Peninsula, Calypso enters the waters of Guadalupe, island home of the great northern sea elephant.
Our divers have gone ahead of the ship to approach the island as the sea elephants might have done when they first arrived here. For the divers, it is a strange realm where plant life is luxuriant, but where fish life is extremely sparse.
Guadalupe is a true oceanic island, which blew out of the ocean in a series of eruptions nearly 7 million years ago. The maze of vegetation clinging to its undersea rocks and cliffs tells the incredible story of Guadalupe's capacity to support life. In its warm waters, nearly 70 degrees, even the ancient wanderer of the sea, the northern sea elephant, would find a new home.
The origin of the sea elephant lies buried in time. Some believe that they first appeared on land as dog-like creatures. Later, they adapted to a life in the sea more than 20 million years ago. While the nomadic sea elephants came to spend more than 7 months of their life each year in the open sea, they would always be tied to the land to mate and bear their young. Foreboding Guadalupe has been the northern sea elephant's main breeding home for centuries. Badgered and hunted, they had been driven from their traditional mainland beaches by early explorers. Here on Guadalupe, they flourished until men appeared and once again threatened their survival.
To minimize disturbance of the animals once on shore, Cousteau and his cameraman bring only a small landing party to the beach. Marine biologist Dr. Ted Walker, son Philippe, and crew member Raymond Canoë.
"80 years ago, there were few signs of life on these beaches. The sea elephants had been slaughtered and were nearly extinct. Under protection by the Mexican government since 1911, they have made one of the most spectacular recoveries in the natural world. The opportunity to study their lives and behavior has attracted us to Guadalupe. Most of this present generation of sea elephants have never seen a man before. It is little wonder that our first encounter with a 3-ton bull is mutually cautious. On the main beach, we are immediately struck by the overwhelming sense of crowding in the rookery. Thousands of discrete creatures packed into a narrow area only a few hundred yards in length. We are aware of past studies based on a smaller sea elephant population. Here, there should be a highly ordered society in which individual bulls clearly control territories and groups of females. Instead, in this tremendous compression of sea elephant life, there is no recognizable social pattern. We wonder if the dynamics of rookery life have been altered by this tremendous population explosion on the beach.
Out of some ancient genetic compulsion, the 3-ton beachmasters hurl threats across the Guadalupe rookery. Often the bull's threatening presence will discourage unsure opponents. But when two bulls both refuse to give ground, a fight is inevitable.
For as long as sea elephants have been coming on land to mate and breed, there have been fights between the bulls. Their combat is unpredictable, earth-shaking. With short, massive fighting tusks, the bulls slash at the soft, unprotected flanks of their opponent. One lunge of their powerful necks could instantly kill a man.
On land, combat becomes a test of strength and stamina. A 10,000-pound shoving match in which the object seems to be to make an opponent lose his will to continue.
Here in the surf, while the nearby females show a total lack of interest, the bulls engage in even more brutal fighting than on land. But the blood that spatters their chests comes mainly from surface capillaries that burst after repeated bruising. Time and again, we observe that combat ends as suddenly as it begins. Obviously, a loser does not have to fight to the finish, to know that he has lost. And the bulls, because of their massive size, never fight for more than 15 minutes. In less populated rookery life, victory meant dominance by a beachmaster over a harem for an entire breeding season. Today, in the disorder caused by overpopulation, weak, inferior bulls mate with as many females as the victorious masters do. We suspect that the males now fight merely in obedience to an instinct for violence that is one of nature's strategies for guaranteeing species survival.
Many losers skulk around the edges of the rookery for new opportunities to fight or mate. Others head underwater. Submerged, sea elephants become nearly weightless. Their huge size no longer is a liability. As beautifully adapted marine mammals, they are completely at home in the sea. "100 yards offshore, Calypso divers unexpectedly encounter an act of nature that no man had ever witnessed before. The underwater mating of the sea elephants. January 3rd. At an outer cove where both young and old bulls seem to gather, the divers decide to make their first attempt at close-up underwater photography.
In the sun-splashed shallows, the sea elephants cautiously keep their distance from our divers. Their eyesight is sharp and wide-angled.
Near the mouth of an underwater cave, a bull is inadvertently cornered. The divers move in for a close-up.
In the sea, man feels at the mercy of an alien environment. But our divers have learned through years of experience that unless they inadvertently threaten life, they are safe and secure, even from the most powerful animals of the underwater world.
January 26th.
Today, we established a permanent campsite on Guadalupe. Assignment: to keep day and night watch on the sea elephants. At times, Calypso must leave for supplies as well as other projects. The camp's location, several hundred yards from the main beach, is called Northeast Anchorage. In the 1920s, Mexican Marines were stationed here to protect the sea elephants from poachers.
In charge of the land-based studies, Philippe has preceded his crew onto the beach. The time of mating in the rookery is at hand, and the bulls are already beginning to feel the mating urge. At such times, their tempers are characteristically short. In January, signs of birth began to be seen on the beaches. Most births take place at night. For the cows, it marks the end of 350 days of gestation, mostly at sea. As they have done for centuries, they haul out on Guadalupe to bear their young. In recent years, their undisturbed annual birth cycle has created a tremendous population explosion on the beach.
Each pup is born into a melee of fighting and mating bordering on anarchy. Contact with his natural mother is in immediate peril. He's nearly blind at birth and too weak to move about. Even his cries of hunger are drowned out in the cacophony of the rookery. Approximately 1/3 of all newborn pups die before their first birthday, some from natural causes, but many others die because they become separated from their mothers within the first few hours after birth.
February 7th. A baby sea elephant, not more than a day or two old, struggles to stay afloat. Apparently swept into the sea by a high wave, he is not yet strong enough to swim. Philippe and Canaway spot him and move in to help. Even as a newborn, he weighs nearly 40 pounds. On close inspection, he seems unharmed. Unable to tell which is the baby's mother among the thousands of cows on the beach, Philippe decides to release him into the rookery and follow where he goes.
For the pup, this is the beginning of a frightening odyssey. He must find a cow willing to nurse him or face certain death. We know that cows, when they are ready to nurse, will suckle babies other than their own. But they must have the need, or they refuse even the most desperate pleadings of a stray.
For some babies, crowding has had a beneficial effect, for a virtual milk bank now exists within the rookery. When cows feel the pressure to give up their milk, they merely turn on their sides and suckle any baby who is nearby. With undeveloped sight at birth, newborn pups use their noses to locate the nipples. The milk the pups consume, an estimated half a gallon a day, is extremely rich in fat. They must store it for sustenance until they are old enough to feed at sea, which still is more than 2 months away. February 12th. Philippe and Maurice hope to measure a newborn pup. Away from the bedlam in the middle of the rookery, they find the cows much more protective about their young.
One day, this pup will weigh several tons. His expected lifespan is 20 years. A healthy baby, he now measures 34 inches around and 40 inches long. His limbs barely protrude from his sleek torso. Only his hands and feet are recognizable. The webbed foreflipper articulates like a human hand, but is tipped with sturdy claws. His rear flippers will come to imitate a powerful tail fin.
In returning the pup, Philippe and Canaway are intrigued by the continued protective nature of the cows. For within 3 weeks of birth, cows lose complete interest in their babies and focus their attention on the bulls. Responding to the seductive calls of the female, a bull heads into the frenzy of mating.
At the height of mating, there is total bedlam. The old harem patterns have completely broken down. All mating relationships are strictly momentary, with neither sex showing fidelity of any kind. We observe that females often mate with several bulls in the same day, and the bulls, both the winners and the losers in the fights, simply move in whenever there is an opportunity. During the quieter moments of mating, these huge bulls embrace the females with their own kind of tenderness. Such peaceful moments are brief. The females are fertile only for a few weeks, and the drive to mate often creates a nightmare world for the young.
Every year, hundreds of babies are doomed to death by suffocation or crushing. Miraculously, because of the resiliency of their bodies, pups do escape. February 16th. The men spot a cow and baby in the surf. Whether this pup is her own baby or merely adopted, she appears to have assumed responsibility for him. Several weeks old, he is about to take his first swim. And as nature provides, there is no way the mother can teach him.
For any baby who has survived the first several weeks of Oakley life, this is the second most critical moment. He is born with the ability to swim, yet he must gain the strength and confidence to do it alone. Like his earliest ancestors, he has crossed into the sea. There he will spend more than half his life, and he has only 3 months to master his adopted element. I cannot help but believe that a bond between this cow and pup does exist at this one crucial moment.
Since man first set eyes on the sea elephant, he has been mystified by the phenomena of sand flipping. Over the years, it has been described in many ways, as protection from the heat, a strategy against insects, even as a method for digging a bed. For all the speculation, sand flipping remains a mystery that even the babies are born with. In spite of the sandstorm, Canaway wants to record the heartbeat of a cow. Sea elephants were named for their noses, yet it took until the 20th century to discover what purpose they served. Some thought they were snorkels, others that they were used for feeding. Crews on passing ships were convinced they served as natural foghorns by which the bulls called females onto the island. Today, observers agree they have only one major function, as resonators when bulls sound their threats before combat. Canaway has recorded the voiced threat of a large, successful bull. He now tests whether played through a loudspeaker, the sound will evoke a belligerent response from other bulls.
Canaway's persistent propaganda finally drives even one of the biggest males into the sea. The recorded bull had more fighting guts than this bull on the beach.
For the sea elephant, every minute on land is a tremendous physical effort. Because of his size, he is at the outer limits of his ability to survive out of water. He tires quickly. His body overheats. And except when impelled by his own instincts to fight or mate, he spends most of his time on land in a somnolent, near-traumatized state. Cousteau and Walker believed that in the 19th century, this extreme limitation on land might have led to their demise. For against men, they stood no chance at all. "50 years of slaughter by sealers and whalers, looking to top their oil barrels, had reduced the vast herds of northern sea elephants to a remnant colony of less than 100 animals, isolated on remote Guadalupe Island. Even after they were given partial protection, they were plagued by scientists and museum staffs who came to take specimens for their zoos and laboratories. Scientists believed that the sea elephant had technically reached extinction, that the species could not reproduce a viable population. Time would prove them wrong. What the early census takers of the sea elephants could not know was how many of the animals were at sea. Apparently, there were enough to help the recovery begin. They were capable of diving 1,000 feet and surfacing more than a mile away. Thus, at sea, they were practically invulnerable to attack by man. Uniquely streamlined for life in the ocean, they can suspend breathing for 8 to 10 minutes without coming up for air. Unlike whales who have single horizontal tails, sea elephants have double hind flippers, vertically positioned. Each pushes the water in alternating strokes, with a motion like a double-tailed fish. Their foreflippers work like ailerons to steer and maneuver their huge frames with little effort. February 28th. Bernard and Serge instinctively decide to try a new approach to the animals they have lived with for more than 2 months. Instead of standing or kneeling as they have done before, they now approach the sea elephants on their own terms.
Bernard and Serge's intuition pays off. For the sea elephant, anything vertical represents an enemy, anything horizontal appears friendly and female. Even with a powerful bull, Bernard encounters total indifference. After all, to make friends with the elephant of the sea, all you have to do is to crawl on the beach as he has always done.
April 4th, late season on Guadalupe. The population has already thinned out. Many of those remaining on the beach are in the process of molting. In their annual molt, sea elephants shed in patches, beginning with the back and working towards the face. Unlike others in the seal family, they shed not only their hair, but an entire layer of skin. Until the procedure is complete, a sea elephant will not leave the island on his yearly venture in the sea. At the back of the beach, the 8 to 12-week-olds rely on their stored fat to sustain them until they are ready to go to sea.
The rich, healthy fat of the fast-growing youngsters raises a major question about the feeding habits of the sea elephants. According to prevailing theories, the cows that suckle these babies do not feed at all during the many weeks of nursing. And for a pup to grow to nearly 300 pounds, a cow would have to give 1.5 tons of milk, roughly the equivalent of her total body weight. Yet the cows lose very little weight. It seems impossible they do not feed during these 5 months on Guadalupe.
Cousteau and Dr. Walker suspect that while sea elephants are basically deep divers, they must also have close-in feeding places near the island.
We have only 3 clues to whether the sea elephants fast or feed during the period when they are at Guadalupe. Scientists who have examined their stomachs have found them empty. The Mexican fishermen claim that the Guadalupe sea elephant grazes on seaweed. We have observed that they eliminate a yellow substance, which is probably the result of some eating. Yet, our divers find no evidence of such feeding. We decide to follow a sea elephant from shore in the hope that he will lead us to his feeding grounds. We hope that he will become accustomed to our buoy and that he might settle down and act naturally. The sea elephant's notion about where to go does not necessarily coincide with ours. Rather than lead us anywhere, he has outmaneuvered us.
Most of the remaining sea elephants in the rookery have moved down to the water. The time of their departure from Guadalupe is near. Except for the shoreline, the beaches are almost deserted. Movement off the beach has uncovered the incredible extent of death over the past 3 months, especially of the young.
Hundreds of pups die on the beach from starvation, crushing, suffocation, or disease. But it is in the vastness of the sea that the life of the adults usually come to an end.
April 12th. Philippe Cousteau and a camera crew set out from Calypso to extend the range of their dives into deeper water. On their way, they are sidetracked by the sight of floating baby carcasses on the surface. Often, inexperienced babies will tire and drown at sea, or occasionally be attacked by their natural enemy, the shark. As the divers start down, a solitary predator appears through the gloom of the deep. Descending steadily down the underwater terraces of the Guadalupe volcano, the divers sense that something is strange and somehow different here. Suddenly, at 140 feet, Philippe discovers a shadowy realm of death. Near the surface, a diver ignites a torch and begins a symbolic descent.
"25 fathoms below, on a stark underwater terrace, lies a world unlike anything we have ever seen before, the underwater graveyard of the sea elephants.
April 20th. Calypso's lookout spots several bulls surfacing for air in blue water. Beyond the perimeter of the island, for the first time, they are at the start of their great yearly adventure at sea.
The old, experienced bulls are the first to depart for the independence of the open sea. These avant-gardistes will soon be followed by the entire population of the island. On land, they were rolling mountains of flesh. They are lively, fluid shapes under the sea. Beyond 200 feet, we can go no farther. How the sea elephants live, feed, and survive in their deep world remains a mystery.
Though the study is over, Cousteau decides on one last assignment for his crew, to take a final portrait of the sea elephant, a free and indomitable creature of the sea.
Elephant of the sea. When we first met you, we had to overcome our apprehension. Then we smiled at you as a whimsy of nature. At times, the tragedy of your life moved us. But today, we admire your subtle mastery of water, the element in which we are only newcomers. We salute you, our ancient cousin of the sea, as you once again set out on your mysterious odyssey. Today, our sea elephants have multiplied so rapidly that the tiny beaches of protected Guadalupe Island can no longer contain them. Gradually, the elephants of the sea are establishing new colonies on the beaches of their ancestors, now ranging as far north as Alaska. But everywhere, they encounter the 20th century. Oil pollution already is plaguing them on the offshore islands of California. Curiosity seekers are disturbing the fragile environmental balance on which their new communities depend. The Cyranoes of the sea are once again at the mercy of man.